Hello everyone, it's Rees over Farm, and today I'm going to walk you through what we do to look after our strawberries when they're growing, chemical wise, fertiliser, and why we grow them in coir. I have had quite a lot of points raised on Facebook recently, looking down through the comments, talking about, are we organic, do we use chemicals, pesticides, why do you grow them in bags? Some of them are a little bit antagonistic. I think they're searching for an answer that they've already decided on. But it's an interesting thing to talk about, how our food is produced, what farmers are using to control pests, diseases, and yeah, try and share a little bit about what we do here in a longer video than I normally do. It's worth starting off with a preface that current regulations are so different to what my grandfather experienced 40 or 50 years ago when he was farming, and the restrictions that are in place these days are very stringent in comparison. We have the government control what is allowed to be applied on crops, and that's anything from wheat that is sold to make bread, and barley for beer, or strawberries, as you can see walking down the road here. Now, chemicals and fertilizers have always been very expensive, but a lot more so in recent history, especially since COVID. And that means that from a profitability point of view, you really don't want to use them. Some of the chemicals I might put on here, for instance, to control spiders, could be £600 per application to spray the field, and that's one chemical. I might do 2 of them at a time, and quite regularly the invoices for the agrochemical suppliers can be thousands of pounds, and yeah, I don't really want to be doing that. So some arguments I've seen is that it's all about profit, and we're using chemicals to make more profit. It's actually the sort of the alternate is true. If we didn't have diseases and pests, we wouldn't need to use them, and we wouldn't. But as we do have diseases, this is nature after all, we've got to look after our crops with something. Call it crop medicine if you want to put a fluffy title on it, but it is agrochemicals. And we can combat 3 main different types of things with agrochemicals. One of them is weeds. Now, because we grow them in bags, there isn't really a need for weed control in the bags. We do put some chemical underneath here, so we put some glyphosate down underneath to keep these boundaries clear underneath, so the weeds don't grow up. This is what they start off like, and they very quickly get very tall. The seeds get in here, and then they cause all sorts of chaos. So we hand weed these. So we don't really use herbicides on these. We do on pumpkins. Different chemicals combined to control different types of weeds. And disease, fungus is the other one out of the 3. So we might get something, there's a little bit of thinking here that's probably been caused by some sort of disease, possibly mildew, maybe. I have seen a little bit in the leaves, not too much around this area, but you do start to see a build-up in dry weather in the UK with plants. More so, I found on the Red Glory over there. Haven't seen too much of it yet, but there is some. They just turn white. The leaves will all turn white. They're completely. The fruit looks horrible. The fruit looks like it's gone mouldy. It's not. It's just mildew. They don't taste very nice either. And then the other one is pests. So we've got lots of different pests in here. At the moment, we've probably got thrips. So thunderbugs might be in that flower. It's difficult to show you. I will try. Yeah, there we go. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but there's thrips there. You can there you go. You can see them wandering around in my hand. So those are a problem. Those cause bronzing. So they cause the fruit to go brown, have like a goldy colour. And if it gets really bad, like we've had before, again they taste awful. So because the thrips get into the flowers, they burrow down in there and they lay their larvae, and that causes them to go bronzed and hard and really not very nice. Look at this strawberry I've just found in there. It's gorgeous, isn't it? Look at that. Delicious. These are the Everbearer variety I used to like too. Been pretty impressed with them. They got some lovely big fruit, really presenting well. So say, look, nice hanging down there on the trusses. Really gorgeous. Slightly nicer, slightly different flavour to the Red Glory. Red Glory is a little bit more waterier, less flavour. My favourite is still the Sonata, although, as you can see, the Starlings agree too, and they're having a whale of a time today because there's no customers in here because we're closed. So they've got free reign, which is very annoying. So yeah, we'll combat things like thrips with chemicals, but again, very expensive. And what I prefer to do, and what most strawberry farmers prefer to do, is put something on that is also expensive, but will keep working more than 24 hours or so after the initial knockdown. Tony has been out here, and she has been sprinkling bugs. In fact, here we go. This is some of it. So this is these aren't bugs themselves, but this is the carrier material that the bugs come in. And she sprinkled it all over the plants. Two different bug-eating bugs we put on today. We put Spidex, which kills, or that eats red spider mite, which I've talked about before, and Thripex, which is one that eats the thrips. There's wasps that eat the thrips as well. Our agronomist has identified an awful lot of species out here that live in the hedgerows around the field that are really beneficial to us, and they keep working. So they will build up even year on year to some degree, a natural level. They're natural to the UK, they're indigenous. So we're kind of adding back into nature and helping us save chemical use, because for us it's cheaper. So it is not just a case of blasting chemicals all over the strawberries to make us more money. We want to use insects because they are better. It's not always the case. Sometimes a disease pressure just builds up really quickly. We saw it with mildew earlier in the year. Suddenly out of nowhere, we came out 5 days before and they were fine. 5 days later, you need a rapid knockdown in that situation, and that's where agrochemicals really, really help. Because if we hadn't have done that, the fruit would have become ugly, unsaleable, unflavorable, and no one would have wanted to buy them. It has to be a tricky compromise. There's no point blasting chemicals all over them, as people say, every week, if there's no disease and no insects. Waste of money. You can get some preventative ones, which we do earlier in the season to avoid having to have those rapid knockdown ones in the middle of the season. Could we grow these organically? The short answer is not like this, and not with these varieties. And the most difficult thing with the organic, not traditional, conventional farming debate is that it's not black and white answer, unfortunately. There is no one way is right and one way is wrong. The answer is really use the method that you can use to grow the crops that you want to the demand that you can fulfill. And the demand we have here is for nice strawberries, pick your own, good quality, in a small area, with low labour, because we need to keep costs down and sell them to the public at a price that they're willing to pay. And even then, this is not a massive money-making scheme. That's the kind of tricky thing that it can get polarised in arguments and debates on social media. Is why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Well, it's not as simple as just change it and do it like this tomorrow. There is lessons to be learned from both sides. Conventional farmers, aka what we're doing here, can learn from organic farmers, and vice versa. There's very, very good conventional farmers that you do organic principles anyway, even though they're not registered as organic, because it's more effective and it's cheaper to do. There's so many different things, and often husbandry is really important as well as to how much agrochemicals you use. Back in the sort of 60s, 70s, any man and his dog just blast chemicals on, grow crops, sell them, make money. It's a lot harder to do that now with the prices where they are, both in terms of what the crops can be sold for and what the agrochemicals are. You need to be a very good businessman. You need to look after the crops well, and you need a damn good bit of luck, because as everyone who's seen on Clarkson's farm, if the weather's against you, no matter what you do, you're kind of stuffed. If you get it right and you've got your husbandry right and you've been on point with getting your fertiliser on, you looked after the crop, it won't be stressed. It won't need those extra fungicide and herbicide applications, because the weeds will be swamped by the light that's being shadowed by the crop that's grown well. They're more resistant to disease, yada yada yada. So Why do we grow them in bags? Why do we grow these strawberries in plastic bags that are plastic bags bad for the environment? We've got coconuts that have been harvested to make this sort of substrate for these to grow in. Why don't you grow them in soil? Oh, the soil is tricky. You can, but you generally need to put them in raised beds. They're then knee level. They're not as nice to pick. You've got slightly more issues with pests getting to them there, and you have less control over the water because you can put the water in. The water sits there after it's applied, and it is held in the soil along with the nutrients that the strawberries don't want. So when we're flushing, we're getting the water out into the bottom there. That is actually effectively like going for a wee for people. It's getting rid of the build-up of minerals that the strawberry plants don't want. And there's a fine balance between what we put in and what we want to get out. We want the bad stuff out the bottom, we want the good stuff in the bags. And it is much easier to do that in a bag that has a substrate like coir in. So these have come from Indonesia, I think. They are flat packed, so they're much shorter. They come in floor to ceiling in containers shipped across from there. And yes, you could argue that's bad for the environment. A counter argument, like all of these things, because it's not black and white, is that you're not having to use so much resources to try and water the soil and build up the sort of the levels there and look after that. So there's a counter argument for every why don't you just. If you're ever asking why don't you just, there's probably a very good answer that if you spend a bit of time researching, you will probably find online or using ChatGPT. Even if you use that title, why don't farmers just do this? It'll probably come up with an answer. Always be careful though, because you might find something that's completely bogus. The other good thing about coir is, I feel, versus peat, is that coir's grown. Right, this has been grown in a different country, rather than peat, which has been dug up from the soil, which has been produced over tens of thousands of years potentially. And because you can recover the coir from there, but it is very difficult, what we tend to do is burn it to heat the house. And I felt bad about burning peat. I feel less bad about burning coir because I know you can have peat fires. It's very effective at heating the house, and coir is less effective, but I don't mind burning a crop. We've done it. That was effectively what the straw burner was built for originally. So the plastic from that, yeah, there is an element of it being an issue. So we've got 30% recycled. But again, nothing's perfect. We'd have a plastic mulch on the strawberries if they were in the ground to stop the weeds growing up, or straw. Straw would be the absolute perfect, and the sort of renewable membrane to put down and stop the weeds growing, but that has its drawbacks. There's some very good pick your own farmers in the UK who do use straw. Shout out to those guys. We used to do it. In fact, I scrapped one of the straw layers a couple of years ago because it had been sat around for the best part of 20 years unused. In fact, it was more than 20 years after we bought it from the people who used to hire them out back in the day. I put it online to see if anyone wanted it. It was in really good condition, but no one did, and its ultimate destination was a scrapyard. And that's a kind of a wrap then, I think, of what we do here on the farm. I have been vague intentionally with exactly what we put on. Obviously, I talked about glyphosate under here because it's very easy for comments and videos online to be twisted and manipulated to suit a certain agenda. And I might put a chemical on this year that is really prevalent and really useful. Next year, I don't need it. And if this video kind of sits on the internet forever and people see it and they think, oh, that's what they put on this year, and it's not true, because next year is a different problem and we might use something different to combat a different pest. Well, I hope that video has been insightful for you, showing what we do a little bit at the farm and how we look after our crops. If you guys have grown organic strawberries at home, shout out to you, because it is super difficult, and kudos to you if you getting some juicy ripe strawberries, looking after them just with your bare hands and a good bit of luck. I hope this has been interesting for you. If there's any comments or questions you've got, please do leave them below. Please keep it clean. It would be great if we couldn't get emotional on this. It's a really touchy subject for some people. and it would be great to have a good dialogue, a sensible dialogue on here, and to answer any of your questions. Thanks very much for being with us, and I will see you on the next one. Take it easy.